What are the players saying about last weekend and trying to put that in the rearview mirror?
I think that's exactly what they're trying to do, Joe, is put it in the rearview mirror. I think they've said, we were awful, we were terrible, but we've just got to move on. This is a new week, and I think that's how you have to approach it. You're a 3-9 team, and they've had some hiccups this year. The Jet loss on Thursday night was one of those same type of games, the London trip, the second half of that game, and then this one here. So I think what you need to see happen with this team is they've got to play a pretty good, desperate type of football on Sunday. And I think that they're trying to take the approach that they've taken pretty much every week with this group is let's see what we did wrong, fix it, correct it, and go out and have a good week of practice. They said yesterday's walkthrough was good, and today they were going out to hit a little bit and take to the pad. So I think they're trying to look at it as best as they can and say, yeah, we need to be better in every single facet of the game. And Alex Van Pelt was pretty vocal about it this morning, saying, we can't have those turnovers of Drake May, and we have to show. We took a big step back when it comes to discipline and the pre-snap penalty we saw with that offensive line. So he lit into them a little bit this week, and rightly so. So now we'll see if they can respond on Sunday against the Colts team that's very beatable, and it's a game maybe that they should win for themselves and for going forward the rest of the season.
Yeah, what has Jerod Mayo and even Drake May said about May's turnovers and the way he needs to limit them moving forward? Because as you and I have talked about week in, week out, Dan, we see the promise there with Drake May, but this is something that he'll have to rein in.
Yeah, you just can't, they've all said you just can't do it. But at the same time, Joe, it's one of those things that we're seeing the development of a quarterback, right? So we're seeing something, and Alex Van Pelt was asked today, if he has any regrets of not letting Drake play until week 6. And he said, absolutely not. When it comes to what they're doing, this is a career franchise quarterback. You're trying to develop him the right way. And I think we've done a good job of that. And that's been, if you're a Patriots fan, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but if you're a Patriots fan, that's the one biggest thing that you wanted to see this season, the development of the rookie quarterback. And I think we're seeing it before our eyes. We all watch, we see that he's making right plays and everything else. So part of that is you say, hey, Drake, no, we can't have this. We can't do this. But you understand that he's trying to make a play, right? So I think it's kind of, they understand, but now they're sitting there saying like, hey, as a team, we can't afford any more turnovers. And partly because they're not forcing turnovers on the defensive side. And if you have negatives when it comes to turnovers, you're not going to win many football games.
You mentioned what this team has talked about in relation to the penalties and what they're trying to do this week in terms of rectifying it. I mean, it stood out a lot in that game against Miami, the fact that they were whistled 13 times, and ultimately the Dolphins took 10 of those 13 whistles in that game against the Patriots. Have they talked about why that happened specifically? Like why there were so many breakdowns, especially the pre-snap penalties too, Dan?
Well, I think Vederian Lowe, like it or not, it's inexcusable, really. But he was just saying that he was trying too hard to avoid penalties. And let's face it, the Dolphins have a pass rush, and with the crowd, you're trying to get a jump, especially if you're a tackle. You play either of the two outside tackle positions. Someone's coming at you, so you're trying to get a jump, stepping back and pushing and protecting, right? So I think in Lowe's mind, he made the mistake of, I got to be ready, as opposed to relaxing in his mind and saying, when you go, you go. And a lot of that's discipline too, right? So you have to be better than that. But at the same time, that's the human element that we didn't see in Miami. And it's something that, you can say talent-wise, what separates the really good players or good players from the great players, or the really good players, in that they have that discipline, they have the whole package when it comes to what they need to do.
Defensive coordinator DeMarcus Covington, I know he spoke today, and I'm curious what he had to say, Dan, about the defense and specifically what happened in that game against the Dolphins, because Tua, that receiving core, Jonnu Smith also had a big game. They really did a nice job against the Patriots and set the tone in that game, in part because of what they did offensively, being able to move the ball so well.
Yeah, and I think there's communication. There was a lack of communication in the secondary. The players have talked about that all week. There was a lack of pass rush up front, but part of that is because of how quickly Tua was able to get the ball out. And we didn't really see any type of change or adjustments until second half, and it was too late by then. So, for me, I put that on everybody, the players and the coaching staff. Is you knew what was coming, right? Tua is basically the quarterback that he is. He wants to drop back, look over the middle, and hit one of his fast guys, and either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, or your running back Devon Achane, and let them take the ball and run. And they didn't adjust to that, and that's on the Patriots. So I think for me, the overwhelming thing that we saw in that game was there was way too much talent on that offense for this defense to handle. Now, coming up against Anthony Richardson, the throwing quarterback of the Colts, who's a second-year guy, you should be able to have a better showing defensively than you did against Tua. But they don't play well down there. There's all kinds of things. But the bottom line is they weren't even close to good enough in Miami on Sunday. So you hope that the corrections are made, the communication is better, and guys play much, much better here on Sunday.
What has the coaching staff said about Anthony Richardson, who he's a build-a-player, Dan? He's got the physical traits you'd want in a quarterback, and you could see maybe the future version of him being one of the most dominant players in football, but there's so much for him to do to get there in terms of figuring out this game. But what has Gerard Mayo and the coaching staff said about this guy?
Well, the one biggest difference is he's different than any quarterback they've seen, from the sense of he will tuck the ball and run and design plays. He is a running back. He's a quarterback that can run the football effectively, and he's not like a scrambler like a Tua when he was before the concussions. But a guy like Caleb Williams and stuff, he can gain yards that way. He's not even like Drake. He will take the ball specifically and run the football. That's the first thing that you have to be aware of with him. So you got to stay disciplined. You got to set the edge. You got to stay in your gaps and just be ready for that when it comes to him. The other flip side of that, Joe, is he's raw. He's extremely raw. He had like 4 starts, I think, at Florida, right? And in his collegiate career, he didn't play that much at all. And he's got a long way to go. So I think this Patriots defense, at least you go in thinking they're going to try to treat him like Caleb Williams and try to shut him down that way and confuse him with coverages and things like that. Because let's face it, he hasn't seen a lot. So I think if it's me, you're going in with that Bears plan, but also remaining disciplined to the sense of you're maybe not going to sack him much, but you got to be able to stop him from running the football as a running back.
We're a little ways away from those old days of Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Pats, Colts. But this should be a fun matchup, especially with the 2 young quarterbacks. And the intrigue from our perspective, obviously, is if the Pats can rebound after last weekend. Dan, are you involved in any of the cooking for Thanksgiving?
None. So I am just there for moral support. I'll be leaving here tonight, and then tomorrow morning we wake up, we do the Feaster 5. I won't be able to take part because, as you know, I have an Achilles tendon injury. But my family will be there representing us amongst 10,000 people that will run and walk it. I love that day, so I'll be out there having a good time and supporting people and watching them start and finish. And then I'll go from there to watch my future son-in-law. He's the head high school football coach at Arlington High School. So I'll watch the second half of his game, Arlington against Waltham. And then I'll just go to my mother-in-law's and just enjoy what my wife and my daughter have been doing all day today, cooking different things. And she'll be cooking, my mother-in-law, and I'll just do that, take a nap, and watch some football. So I have nothing to do. They don't want me near the kitchen when it comes to Thanksgiving Day. How about yourself, Joe, and your young newlywed and your bride and everything else? Are you cooking at all?
I'll be helping out. I'll be the sous chef for sweet potato casserole. But I just in listening to all that, Dan, I love that you're going to be the supporter on the roads, just on the sideline, in the stands, and in the kitchen. You're a supporter for all people.
Yes. Many people have said that to me, Joe. So, yes, that's what I do well, is support others. But I will say, with sweet potato casserole, is that your favorite side? It doesn't surprise me.
I'm
right?
a mashed potato guy. What, are you saying that because I'm such a nice guy?
Yeah, no, because you're a young guy. That's all. And that's like the sweet potato casserole is eating like, fluffernutter and everything else is really good. And part of my job this week for Patriots All Access was to ask some of these players that I interviewed what their favorite sides were. And I got mac and cheese from a couple guys like John Jones, and dressing and stuffing and all that kind of stuff. And Drake May said sweet potato casserole. So I kind of looked at it and said, yep, that's a young guy. He doesn't worry about calories or anything else. And it kind of reminds me of you when you said sweet potato casserole, too.
Only for a couple more years, then I might have to start worrying about it soon. But Dan,
you weigh like 80 pounds. You weigh like 12 years.
For now. The age is it's slowly creeping up. But,
yeah.
But Dan, appreciate the time as always. Have a great Thanksgiving, and thanks for joining us from Foxborough.
Yeah, you too, Joe. You and your family. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone out there.
All right, well, what's coming up this weekend? Of course, we have Thanksgiving tomorrow, but the Pats host the Colts this weekend. But before that, hear what the players are saying on Patriots First Down. That's tonight at 9:30 p.m. on TV 38 and streaming on CBS News Boston. And on Sunday, start off with Patriots Game Day at 11:30 a.m. on WBZ. Also streaming on CBS News Boston. And then the Patriots and Colts kickoff at 1, also on WBZ. And you can turn to TV 38 after for the fifth quarter postgame show.